Okay, so thank you for hopping in to our stability and stretch session. My name is Quinn, your health fitness specialist with Exos at Autodesk. I'm really excited to get into the second session, I believe, of this new class. I've been having some fun thinking of some things to do to work on stability and movement control. The first thing that we're going to do is a little bit of a warm-up, and then we're just going to run through 2 quick circuits. The first circuit is going to be a little bit of movement patterning and working on recreating neuromuscular motor programs, basically just learning how to move properly. And then the second one is going to be a little bit more of like strength, endurance, and stability control. And then we're going to finish up with just a little bit of stretching, as there is the stretching portion of this class as well. So first thing we're going to do is do some shoulder warm up with some gentle arm circles. So you're going to bring your arms out to the side, creating small circles, moving forward and getting bigger and bigger and bigger as we keep going, moving forward, bigger and bigger and bigger, getting them nice and warmed up, bringing them tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter in, and changing direction, now bringing them backwards, again, getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So we're all the way big, and then slowly bringing them back in, tighter and tighter and tighter into tiny circles, okay? Next up, we're gonna do some hip rotations in a quadruped position or hip cars. So we're gonna get down onto our hands and knees. Now we're gonna bring one knee up towards the chest. So I'm picking one knee up, and then I'm coming outside, picking it up and away, and rotating back and down. So opening up the hip to the side, rotating back, and coming back in towards the middle. And we're going to go 3 in that direction, and then stop and do 3 in the other direction. So now I'm extending the leg back out, keeping that knee bent, twisting and opening up, coming back, twisting open, and bringing the leg back down. And twisting. All right, switching sides. I'm going to flip over so you can see my other side. We're going to start by bringing the knee up towards the chest, opening out, rotating, and coming back down. Like drawing a big circle with your kneecap. 3 times. And then changing direction, kicking the leg out, opening up, and pulling forward. And 3 times in that direction as well. All right, next up, we're going to do just a little bit of back mobility with our cat-cow. Sorry, gotta flip my timer here. Sorry about that. Getting started, and we're going to do our cat-cow. So dropping the belly button down, curving the spine, tilting the chin up, and then pulling the belly button up to the ceiling, pressing our shoulders away from the ground, and dropping back down, arching the back, both directions, up and down. Then coming up, tucking the chin to the chest, pulling that spine up to the ceiling, getting some good mobility and movement through the back. Let's go one more each direction. And good. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and get started with our first circuit. we're gonna hop into what I call Pike rotations. So we're gonna get into a raised plank position. So hands are gonna be directly below the shoulders. We're gonna extend the feet out and bring them just slightly wide than the hips. So from here, we're gonna take our hand, twist underneath the armpit and rotate up, opening up our chest and balancing on one hand. Rotating 3 times on one side before switching sides. And 3. If you're having trouble with the feet up, you can always break down to the knees and still get that same twist and rotation. Getting a little bit of a press off the ground, away from the ground, so you still get a little bit of work through the shoulder there. And 3, good. All right, next up, we're gonna go into our glute kickbacks. So very similar to those cars we just did with the hips, but we're not gonna be rotating out. We're just gonna be extending the leg behind us. So I'm back into this quadruped position, and I'm gonna bring one leg up and extend out. As I bring the leg up, swinging the knee back down, keeping it just barely off the ground and coming back up. Not letting that knee drop, but staying up and extending out the whole time. We're gonna get a couple on each side here. Going at a nice even pace, giving a little bit of a hold at the top. Extending all the way out. Good. Let's go ahead and switch sides. Trying to keep both of those hips pointed down towards the floor, so we're not opening up too much as that foot comes back, but keeping everything nice and flat as we move through the motion here. Let's get a few more. And last one. Good. All right. Next up, we're going to do what's called an Atg lunge, meaning all the way to the ground. Okay. But we're not actually going to go all the way to the ground, just meant to emphasize the depth. So we're going to get into this kneeling 90-degree position here. From here, we're going to drive the knee out past the toe. Get that knee all the way out. So right, if this heel comes up a little bit, should be feeling a little bit of a stretch through the hip flexor. From here, you're going to press off the ground, pop up for a sec, come back down, and drive that leg back. Okay, so driving all the way back, and then you're going to move all the way forward, trying to collapse the back of your thigh to your calf. So you can get them to touch each other, that's great. If not, just keep working on that there. And then we're going to pop up, hold, and lower back down. Drive that leg, extending back, moving through real good range of motion through the knee and the ankle, getting a little bit of strength and stability as we pop up, coming back down, and driving back through. Let's go one more on this side. And switching sides. Starting in that 90 position, driving that knee out past the toe, popping up, and driving back. can be easier to get up if you curl your back foot toes underneath the foot. So instead of having those back toes flat on the ground, you're getting those toes curled underneath the foot. So you can really use those toes to help pop up just a little bit. Let's go one more here. And extending out. And good. All right. Next up, we're going to go into our plank to pike. So getting into the same position we started with those, the plank rotations. We're going to have our hands down on the ground, bringing the knees up off the floor. We're going to start flat out like this in a plank position. And then we're going to drive our hands and shoulders away, driving the hips up, pushing the heels down into the mat, getting into a nice pike position, nice tall pyramid, and then moving forward, bringing the shoulders back over the hands, keeping those hips up, and pushing back and forth, getting a little bit of a hold in each position, feeling a little bit of stretch, a little bit of strengthen through the shoulders. Good control as we move back and forth through our pike position here. Let's go one more. And back down into a plank hold. Just giving ourselves a little bit more time here. And bringing those knees down. Rocking back, shaking out the arms, giving a little rest. And we're going to pop up for our last exercise of the circuit, which is going to be a single leg balance to reach. Now, this one can be fairly difficult in terms of balance if you're not used to single leg balance. So you can get against a wall or a shelf or a desk. Can help guide your balance a little bit. But what we're going to do is we're going to pop up onto one foot. So I've got one foot out, bringing my toe up towards my chest, for me out in front like this. And from here, I'm going to use my opposite hand to reach down towards my toe, keeping my legs in the same position. And I'm actually driving my hips back as I bend forward, keeping my chest nice and tall. So I'm pushing my butt back, like if you're carrying a bag of groceries, you're trying to close the door with your butt. You hinge that hip back, reach down towards the toe, tap the toe, or get as far as you can, and come back up. You should be feeling it all through the backside of your leg, helping to stabilize your balance and movement there. We'll do a couple more on this side. Standing straight back up, nice and tall. Then reaching forward, driving those hips back. Coming back up, we'll do one more and then switch. Good. Next leg. Standing up nice and tall, maintaining that balance, focusing on keeping the weight of the body over the midpoint of that planted foot. Working good, even pace, nice and controlled, not trying to rush anything here. Really thinking about what muscles and areas of the leg and foot we use to help stabilize that weight. Let's do a few more. And done. Good. Next up, we're going to go back to the top here, starting with those star rotations from the plank. So getting back into that hands down plank position.
We're going to bring those knees up off the ground, or if you need be, keeping those knees down, dropping the hand through the arm and twisting up. Getting nice even rotations. Doing 3 on one side before switching. And we're doing 2 times on either side. Two, last 1, and 3. Good. Oh. All right, now we're doing our glute kickbacks. Okay, so staying into that quadruped position, we're going to bring the knee up and extend the leg out behind us, giving a little hold at the top, bringing that knee down but not touching the ground. Swinging back and forth with just a little bit of a hold. A nice even pace. Let's get 2 more in. And switching sides. Giving that nice squeeze up at the top. Feeling it in the back of the leg. Moving at a nice even pace. Two more. And done. Good. All right. Next up, we've got those Atg lunges. So getting 1 foot forward, starting in our 90-90 kneeling position. We're going to drive that knee out past the toe, getting all the way out, popping up, holding, coming back down, and rocking back to a full extension before coming back forward. Driving back. You want to get that weight over the midpoint of the foot as you come up. So you're not driving off the toes. When you pop that knee up, you're just keeping that weight over the midpoint of the foot. Right over the arch. Let's get a few more. And switch sides. Bringing our other foot forward. And driving through. Popping up. And extending back. Working on good range of motion. A little bit of strength. Trying to collapse the back of the leg to that calf as you come forward. Getting those hips nice and open. If you're having trouble getting that knee forward, go ahead and bring the heel a little bit closer to your hips. I really want to get good range of motion through the knee there. So if you're feeling a little bit limited, try and shorten the distance that you have between your hips and your front heel. Let's do 1 more. And done. Good. All right. Next up, we've got our plank to pike. So we're going to get our hands back down into that plank position, getting our knees up, popping up into a plank with our hands down and pressing the ground away, rocking the hips back, sitting into those heels, getting a nice little hold, pushing the ground away with the shoulders through the hands, and rocking forward, keeping those hips up, nice and flat through the shoulder, holding, and then driving back into that plank position. You want to hold each spot for about 3 to 5 seconds. Getting nice and even pace here. Rocking back and forth. Let's do one more. Rock back. And done. All right. That's concluding our first circuit there. We've got just a few more exercises we're going to go through twice more, and then we're going to stretch out for the last little portion. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do is called a beast pose. And some of you may be familiar if you've done this before. But what we're going to do is get our hands directly below the shoulders. You're going to bring the knees in front of the hips. So if you can see my camera, my hips are here, my knees are just slightly in front of them. And I'm going to curl the toes underneath my feet. So I'm in this quadruped position here. And from here, I'm just going to prop the knees up about 3 inches, 5 inches off the ground. And we're just going to hold this pose for about 30 seconds if we can. Keeping those knees nice and low off the ground, driving the ground away with the toes in our hands, keeping the fingers nice and wide, giving ourselves a good area of support. Got about 10 more seconds. Try and keep up in that beast pose. And drop down. Very nice job. From here, we're going to stay into that quadruped position. We're going to get the knees right below the hips. And we're going to go into our bird dogs, okay? So we're going to be extending our opposite hand and leg out, just like we were doing with those kickbacks in our leg. We're going to create a nice flat line with our hands and our leg through the toe. And we're going to hold one position here, nice and far out. Really pressing evenly through the hand and the knee, away from the ground. Keeping that nice flat line. And switching sides. Extending out the other hand and leg. Finding that nice balance point between the hands and the knee. Finding a great line all the way from the middle finger through the big toe. Extending out, reaching as far as we can. Nice and flat. If you're having trouble with some balance, try bringing your hands a little bit closer together so they're in this, or your hand and your knee a little bit closer together so you're not as separated out. And your stability is a little bit more centered with each other and they're closer together there. But we're going to go into a squat hold next, now that we have our core activated just a little bit. So we're going to stand up onto our feet, getting our feet hip width apart, right? Nice and spaced out with our hips over our shoulders. We're going to drive those hips straight back. Dropping down, bending the knees, extending the hands out, and giving a nice squat hold. Activating our glute muscles, sitting back into our heels, not falling forward onto the toes, keeping that chest nice and proud. Shoulders pinned back away from the ears. Holding for a few more seconds. and up. Nice job. All right, next up, we're going back into our beast pose. Okay, so we're gonna get down onto our hands and knees again, getting those knees slightly in front of the hips, toes curled underneath the foot, hands below the shoulder. And we're gonna press up onto the toes, keeping the knees just about 2 to 3 inches off the ground, getting that back nice and flat. Holding, getting those hands below the shoulder. Got a few more seconds here, keep it up. Last little bit of work. And down, nice job. Staying in that quadruped position, we're gonna get our knees back directly below the hips, hands directly below the shoulders. And we're going into our bird dogs here. So extending the hand and leg out, opposite side, hand and leg, extending straight out, creating that nice line from the hand through the shoulder, through the hip, and all the way to the toe. Holding up for as long as we can go, trying to keep it for the whole time here. Really thinking about how to stabilize and balance. Good, and switching sides. Few more seconds, staying up. And coming down, good. Last little bit, we're gonna get into our squat hold. So standing up, feet hip width apart. We're gonna drive those hips back, keeping the chest up, extending the hands out, getting into a nice low squat. Holding, sitting that weight back into the heels, like we're sitting back into a chair. Getting a nice squat hold. Let's go, keep going, a few more seconds. And done, good, nice work. Way to get through it. We're gonna finish out with a little bit of stretching here. So first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna get into our hips and our quads. So sitting down on the ground, we're gonna bring one leg forward, bending the other leg backwards, and we're just gonna gently and slowly start to lower our shoulders down. So we fall down onto the elbows, sitting right here into a nice, I call this a hurdler stretch, because you're like a track hurdler, jumping over those hurdles. But folding the leg back, feeling that stretch up through the quad into the hip flexor. If you're feeling it pretty early on in the stretch, feel free to stay up and fall to the side before bringing your body back towards the middle. You can find where it works for you, or if you can get all the way down to the ground, go ahead and lay your back flat. Holding in for a few more seconds. Taking nice deep breaths. Trying to release that tension through the front of the hip that we so often find in those seated positions. And slowly rolling out to the side. Extending that leg back out and bringing our other leg back for the other side, and gently lowering our body back down to the ground or onto our elbows or back to our hand. Opening up the front of that hip, taking nice deep breaths. Trying to release that tension through the front of the hip. Few more seconds here. I know we're running short on time now, running a little over. I don't want to keep you much longer. And gently rolling out to the side, coming back up, and extending that leg back out. All right, thank you so much for hopping into today's class. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, comments, or thoughts about what happened, please let me know. This is a very new class for me, so I'm just getting used to what you guys like. And if you really like anything, or you didn't like anything, or if you want to see more of something that we didn't do at all today, please send me an email, quinngabler@autodesk.com, or drop something in the chat below. I love hearing what you guys have to say and all the feedback you give me. So
Thanks very much.
yeah, no problem. Thanks for coming in.
Okay, bye.
Bye.